Hello, it's John here from JG&A Veteran Depot. I want to talk today about the 40 Smith & Wesson. There's a lot of controversy about the 40 that, hey, 40 is going out of style or 40 is kind of obsolete because 9mm is better now because they have better ballistics when it comes to the ammunition, the rounds. But the 40 is not obsolete. Remember that the 40 was designed specifically by the FBI to be a law enforcement round for folks, for people. It wasn't designed for animals to shoot birds, coyotes, or anything like that. It was designed for a stopping power that it had between the 9mm and a 10mm, because initially the FBI wanted the 10mm, but it proved to be too much of a round for the FBI. Those guys were not always in a law enforcement capacity. They are investigators. It's in their name, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So for them to go out and fire big bore firearms all the time was just not their thing. So most FBI agents, especially the ones that had the smaller hands or whatever, were not able to handle that 10mm. So they went back to the firearm industry and said, hey, can you guys design us a firearm that has a little less recoil, something our agents can handle? And they came up with the 40. So what the 40 is a 10mm short, basically, just like the 380 is a 9mm short. But the agents were still not able to really handle the recoil of the 40 as well. So they went back to the 9mm and said, hey, ballistics have changed over the years. So now that the ballistics are better, we're going to go back to the 9mm, and law enforcement followed that trend. However, the 40 Smith & Wesson, if you go back and look at the original design and what it was designed for, it is an excellent defense, home defense round. That is something that you can always use and depend on. There's nothing wrong with 40 Smith & Wesson, and I'm going to show you a couple of variations and why. So initially, law enforcement carried the Glock 22, and the Glock 22 was in 40. Now, this is a Glock 22 Gen 5. Now, the Gen 5, when Glock came out with that, what they did, they put a heavier barrel on it. They put a different spring, a different recoil spring on the inside of it. So the recoil or the flip in the barrel was greatly reduced. So if you go out and you fire a 40 Smith & Wesson in a Glock 22, you'll find that it's much different than the earlier versions of the Glock, or is much different than some of the other firearms that has that muzzle rise or that flip, because Glock did some things in its design to minimize that flip. The other thing is that the Glock 22 was the full-size duty weapon for law enforcement. However, there's also what they call a Glock 23. Now, the Glock 23 is a little smaller. It's designed to be a little more concealable. Again, the Gen 5 is designed not to have the muzzle flip. And because the Glock 22 and the Glock 23, they're virtually the same handgun in the Gen 5, because they did make the barrel a little thicker. But you'll notice that Glock 22 is just a slight bit longer. And on the frame, it's a slight bit longer too. So the Glock 23 would be more concealable than the Glock 22, because the Glock 22 was really intended as a full-size carry duty gun. But even on the Glock 23, because this slide is just a little shorter, you don't have the muzzle flip of that Glock 22. Although it's also greatly reduced, it's still a fine handgun. If you took this Glock 23 Gen 5 and fired it along with a Glock 19 Gen 5 or a Glock 19 period, you'll find that the recoil is essentially the same in both of those handguns. Glock did an excellent job in minimizing that muzzle flip and that felt recoil in the Glock 23 Gen 5. Also in the Glock 22 Gen 5, they did the same thing. Now, the 40 Smith & Wesson also has versatility to it. A lot of folks like carbine. So if you like a carbine, this is a Kel-Tec Sub 2000, and it is also in 40 caliber. Now, the cool thing about this weapon is that if you pull down on the trigger well, the weapon flips. Now, you can take this thing and put it in a backpack now and go hiking or whatever, or you can use it as a truck gun, because it breaks down, and it's a much smaller footprint than it was when it was extended. And here's the Glock 22, and here's the Kel-Tec 2000, here's the Glock 23, and here's the Kel-Tec 2000. So if you wanted a truck gun, here's an excellent truck gun that breaks down. And to extend this, you just pull down on the release here, and there it is. Here's something else. If you have the Glock 22, this thing takes Glock 22 magazines. That's a 40. This is a 40. You simply take the magazine from the Glock 22 and you can insert it into the Kel-Tec 2000, and it fits. So one magazine, two different platforms of weapon because they both fit. So here in this Kel-Tec 2000 and that Glock 22, you can load up those magazines and they're interchangeable. That makes it fantastic. And I know that 9mm has weapons like that, but what I'm telling you is in the 40, it can be just as versatile. Now, people like the carbines because they don't have that muzzle rise and muzzle flip too. The carbines just kind of naturally negates that problem. So if you want that carbine, here it is, in the 40 though, and you don't have that necessarily that muzzle rise because you have more control. And not only that, with this longer barrel, your shots would probably be more precise than they would trying to fire it in a pistol. Now, if you don't like the larger rounds, the other rounds, the other type of caliber that's out here is actually in the Ruger 5.7. They have an FN 5.7 as well, and there's some other companies that make the 5.7, but it's a 20-round magazine. Now, the 5.7 fires a smaller round, which I'll grab one here and be right back and show you what that looks like. So the FN 5.7 or the Ruger 5.7 fires a round that looks like this. Here it is. It looks like a mini .223 round, and this was also designed to have the speed and the terminal velocity of a 9mm, but on a different scale at a different level. The other thing about this Ruger 5.7 is that the felt recoil is virtually mitigated. So if you want the power of a pistol in a sub-rifle round or in a pseudo-rifle round, but you don't want the recoil, then this Ruger 5.7 is for you. Yes, this is definitely not a weapon that you would get to necessarily conceal, but although some people will carry the large gun, because if you're used to carrying something like a 1911 and you can conceal that, you can certainly conceal this too. But the felt recoil in this one is even further mitigated because of the cut in the barrel, and so there's really no muzzle flip, no muzzle rise. So if you're used to shooting like a 22, or you want something that recoils on the scale of a 22, then this FN 5.7, but you want something that's a little more powerful than what a 22 would be, then here's your round, here's your pistol with the longer barrel, very little, hardly any felt recoil at all, very little or no muzzle flip. You got to go out and fire one of these things to really see how it performs. And you have 3 20-round magazines. And some of them even have 21-round magazines. Excellent sights on here. It's just a good all-around weapon. So when it comes to choices, there's more than just the 9mm. There's more than just the Glock 43 or the P365 or the P320 or the CZs and all of those. Those are just very fine weapon choices. But what I want you to understand, there's a lot of hate out there on the 40 caliber. There's nothing wrong with the 40 caliber. Remember, law enforcement used it for a long time, and so did the FBI. And some law enforcement agencies still do use it, and some special forces units still do use it. There's nothing wrong with it at all. It's not going to get phased out. It isn't going to go away. Yes, the ammunition cost was a little bit more than a 9mm, but the rounds were designed to be just slightly more lethal and more effective than a 9mm too. Although the ballistics, when it comes to ammunition manufacturing, has improved greatly in the 9mm, it has also improved greatly in the 40 as well. So keep those things in mind. Subscribe to our channel for more information if you want to keep up with what we're doing. And here at JG&A Veteran Depot, and also known as JD Guns and Ammo, We do firearms training. We do gunsmithing. You know, if you have questions, we will answer them for you. And if you need anything, go to our website at www.jadedgunsusa.com. Check out the great selections of things that we have on that website, and you order them. If it isn't a firearm, it'll come to your house. If it's an accessory or something else, of course, it'll ship to your house, and ammunition in some jurisdictions. But if it's a firearm, it's going to go to your local FFL so you can pick it up. Or if you do it here locally, it'll come to our store and you can come pick it up. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the sunshine. If it's sunshine in your area, if it's raining, remember, it doesn't rain always. It's going to get better. We'll see you next time.